Differentiating between leadership and management. Distinguishing leadership from management, let me ask you a question. Are you a leader or a manager? Obviously, to answer this question, you need to answer another question first. What is the difference between leadership and management? You may think, aren't leadership and management the same thing? Don't we often use these two words interchangeably? For example, we can say that Ren Jingfei leads Huawei very well. But we can also say that Ren Jingfei manages Huawei very well. We can say that he is the leader of this team. But we can also say that he is the manager of this team. It seems like there is no difference between leadership and management. However, there are also examples where leadership and management cannot be exchanged. For instance, we say that Mao Zedong led the Chinese Revolution, but no one says that Mao Zedong managed the Chinese Revolution. We say that we manage a device, but no one says that we lead a device. These two examples of leading a revolution and managing a device illustrate that there is indeed a difference between leadership and management. So what is this difference? If you think hard, you should be able to come up with many differences, such as leadership being more macro and management being more micro, leadership deciding on strategy and management deciding on tactics, leadership being about decision-making and management being about execution, leadership focusing on direction and management focusing on methods, leadership being more dynamic and management being more static, and so on. These statements all make sense, but they do not seem to be the most fundamental statement. If we can find a statement from which all other statements can be deduced, then this statement is the most fundamental statement. Is there a most fundamental statement about the difference between leadership and management? I think there is, and I will try to extract one for you. This statement is, leadership is about solving challenging problems, while management is about solving technical problems. The statements I just mentioned, such as leadership being more macro and management being more micro, can all be deduced from this statement. Let me repeat, leadership is about solving challenging problems, while management is about solving technical problems. This is the most fundamental statement I have extracted about the difference between leadership and management. This statement is not something I came up with on my own, but something I derived from standing on the shoulders of three leadership masters. I will now explain how these three leadership masters view this statement. Warren Bennis view the first leadership master as Warren Bennis. Bennis is highly regarded and is known as the Dean of Leadership Masters. That is to say, if all the leadership masters were gathered together to form a school, Bennis would be the dean. Bennis is most famous for this statement. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right thing. This statement is well known, and you may have heard it before. But it is possible that when you heard it, it was attributed to Peter Drucker. I have asked Bennis about this in person. I asked him, managers do things right. Leaders do the right thing. Who actually said this, you or Drucker? Bennis was quite cunning. He said that many people have asked him this question. Drucker is older, so let's say it was Drucker who said it. I have done some research and found that Drucker did not say this statement. Drucker did not distinguish between leadership and management. He said, effective managers do the right things. It is very similar, but not the same thing. John Cotter's view. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right thing. This view can also be interpreted as leaders making decisions and managers executing them. However, another leadership master disagrees with this view. This master is John Cotter, who is the second leadership master we will discuss. Cotter became a full professor at Harvard Business School at the age of 33 and voluntarily retired at the age of 54. When he retired, he joked, I used to be the youngest professor in the field of leadership, and now I am the youngest retired professor in this field. Cotter said that it is wrong to think that leadership is about decision-making and management is about execution. He said that leadership and management are two different processes, each with its own decision-making and execution. Cotter divided the management process into three parts. The first is planning and budgeting, The second is organizing and staffing, and the third is controlling and monitoring. He also divided the leadership process into 3 parts. The first is setting direction, the second is aligning people, and the third is motivating and inspiring. You will notice that both the management process and the leadership process have 3 steps, and they correspond to each other. Planning and budgeting correspond to setting direction, organizing and staffing correspond to aligning people, and controlling and monitoring correspond to motivating and inspiring. These 2 processes look very similar, so where is the difference between them? The difference between them is that management is about maintaining order, while leadership is about achieving change. This statement is very important. This is Kotter's core view. Let me repeat, management is about maintaining order, while leadership is about achieving change. This view is very explanatory. For example, why do we say leading a revolution instead of managing a revolution? Because the core of a revolution is change, and the definition of a revolution is thorough change, so we say leading a revolution. Why do we say managing a device instead of leading a device? Because for a device, what we need to do is maintain order and keep it running normally. You may ask, why can we say leading a company or leading a team, as well as managing a company or managing a team? This is exactly what I want to remind you to pay attention to. According to Kotter's view, leading a company or leading a team is not the same as managing a company or managing a team. A company or a team needs to maintain the existing order while continuously undergoing change. Therefore, leading a company or leading a team emphasizes change, while managing a company or managing a team emphasizes maintenance. Of course, a company or a team needs both leadership and management, and neither can be lacking. As you know, our body has a large number of cells, and many cells die and many new cells grow every day, which is change. However, not all cells can die, and most cells still need to live, which is maintenance. An organization is like a human body, which needs to maintain operation and implement change at the same time. If you are in a position of responsibility for a company or a team, you are both a manager and a leader. You need to maintain the normal operation of this team or company while leading it to achieve change. Ronald Heifetz's perspective. I find that Kotter's analysis is more accurate than Bennis. However, there is another leadership expert who I believe is even more precise than Kotter. He is the third leadership master we will discuss, Ronald Heifetz. He has a special connection with me as we both graduated from Harvard Kennedy School and he has been teaching there ever since. But he has also studied at 2 other world-renowned institutions, the Juilliard School of Music and Harvard Medical School. His expertise in music and medicine has infused his leadership philosophy with unique inspiration. Heifetz believes that management solves technical problems while leadership solves adaptive problems. This is Heifetz's core idea, inspired by medicine. When a patient seeks a doctor's help, they expect the doctor to solve their problem. Some problems are technical, meaning the problem and solution are clear, and the responsibility for solving the problem lies mostly with the doctor. For example, if you contract a certain infectious disease, the doctor is responsible for identifying the disease and deciding which antibiotic to use. However, there are also problems where the issue is not clear, the solution is not clear, and the responsibility for solving the problem is shared between the patient and the doctor, with the patient's responsibility even greater than the doctor's. For example, some chronic diseases, although doctors can play a role, require the patient to change their lifestyle. Leadership solves challenging problems. As I mentioned earlier, I differentiate between leadership and management as follows. Leadership solves challenging problems while management solves technical problems. You may have noticed that I have slightly modified Heifetz's terminology. Heifetz uses the term adaptive problems, where adaptation refers to evolutionary adaptation. However, the word adaptation can be easily misunderstood in Chinese, as it may be associated with passive endurance rather than active change. Therefore, I have changed adaptive problems to challenging problems. Technical problems are those that can be solved using existing processes. Challenging problems require breaking existing processes and actively implementing change to solve them. In my first lecture, I said that leadership is about problem solving, and exercising leadership means taking responsibility for solving problems. Now I am upgrading my statement. Not all problem solving is leadership. Solving technical problems is management, maintaining the existing order by doing things correctly. Solving challenging problems requires breaking existing processes and making changes, so it requires doing the right thing and achieving change. I introduced 3 masters earlier, and my statement is directly from Heifetz, but it is not contradictory to Beness and Cotter's statements. Solving technical problems means doing things correctly because we already know how to do them and there are processes in place. Solving challenging problems requires breaking existing processes and making changes, so it requires doing the right thing and achieving change.